Ready to do this?
Yeah.
Alright, I'm here with my homeboy Larry. I work with Larry over at West High. He's one of our SROs. He keeps the hallways of West safe. A lot of people don't know what an SRO is, so school resource officer. So he's a cop that works at a school basically. So I'm gonna just pick your brain a little bit and ask you a few questions and get to know the lifestyle of Officer Larry a little more. So one of my first questions is what made you want to become a cop?
So it's different than I guess why I still am a cop. But I started working in my hometown, and that was because I wanted to, wouldn't say at the time anyway, I wouldn't say it was to protect my community, but it was I wanted to be a positive impact in my community. Because like I said, small town, there was 5,000-6,000 people in the town at Moab, so it's not big. So I knew everybody. Kind of gave up on athletics. After my wife and I had our first kid, so I was just working and things like that, and I just wasn't feeling as productive a member of society as I could have been. They said I always wanted to join like the military, things like that, but again that didn't work out. So the next step for me was law enforcement. It took me actually about a year to get in. I applied the first time, I think I was 23. Didn't really have a whole lot of experience like in life. Didn't know a whole lot about myself yet even then. So I'm kind of glad it didn't work out. But it took me about a year and a half before I think I applied 3 times, and that third time I finally got it. And by then I'd done other stuff, and, worked in different industries and things like that. So I had a lot more life experience to bring into the role. So it was good. But I think like that initially was because I wanted to make a positive impact in my community. Obviously, I've changed because I don't live and work there anymore. But same principle. I like. Well, now it's different. Like I said, you've seen in this role, like I just like talking to people. I don't necessarily want to say I'm like a counselor, but in this role, we wear a lot of hats, and counselor's one of them. So I just like talking to people and seeing if I can help them, and if I can't help them, maybe I know somebody who can, or can point them in a direction. Or sometimes, like I said, I just like bullshit.
So how long have you been a cop?
I think 11 years, going on 12 now. I started sometime in 2014. I don't remember exactly when. So 11, going into 12, I think. And like I said, I've worked small departments mostly. Back home in Moab, I worked at a department in Utah County. I started in the jail back home, so I worked for Grand County, the sheriff's office, and Moab City. Then I worked for a small department called Lone Peak in Utah County for 3 years. So a year in the jail, 5 years in Moab, 3-ish years and a half at Lone Peak, and then a little over 3 years now at Salt Lake.
You've been all around, huh?
I just progressively going north. I just, like I said, I think I'm done. Salt Lake's, I'll probably stay here for a while.
So how intense was the police academy?
So not as intense as like now that I help, because I help our training unit here at Salt Lake, because we have our own academy in house. The what they call POST, Police Officer Standards and Training, is the state governing body, I guess, or board, or whatever you want to call it, that certifies cops. Even at our in-house academy, they're still POST certified, because that's what sets the standard. But I went through the actual POST academy, and think then it was 16 weeks. I'm not sure how much it is now because they change it every so often depending on legislation, things like that they have to add or whatever, or take out depending on whatever. But like I said, I think it was 16 weeks when I went through. And then corrections, which I did before that, was 14 weeks. So I did 30, 40 weeks of academy in my career so far. And then we have to do 40 hours a year of training to keep our certification. So we're training a lot. But the academy, like the post-academy itself, wasn't super bad. It was a lot of classroom. Physical stuff wasn't as big. And I think that's because they expect you to do that on your own. But at the in-house academy here in Salt Lake, yeah, man, they run them ragged. They got PT, physical training, if not daily, weekly. And then they have defensive tactics, which is our hand-to-hand stuff. That's what I help train. And that's, I'm pretty sure it was 2 weeks in our post-academy. But here, I think it's like 6 weeks. But they space it out a little bit, so it's not 6 straight weeks. It's kind of, a day or two here, a day or two there. But yeah, it's definitely a lot more in-house than it is at the academy. And like I said, it's just a standard you have to meet physically, so you have to run 1.5 miles and so long. We had to do the sprint back then, so it was a 300-meter sprint. It was set up in a certain way. I just can't remember the order now because they changed it, so they don't even do the sprint anymore. But it was push-ups, sprint, sit-ups, 1.5 mile run, and there was something else. But they took it all out, so now it's just a run. They have to do a plank for however long it is. Push-ups. I think that's it now. So it's different than it used to be. I know UHP, because Post is kind of ran by UHP, sort of. So the Department of Public Safety, but that's who oversees UHP as well. It's a weird thing. But they're looking at going to like more of an obstacle course standard, which a lot of other states do, and it's kind of makes more sense. Like, especially, like I said, I work in Salt Lake. When am I ever going to run 1.5 miles? Like, I might run 2 blocks. You know what I mean? Like, it's I don't know. I wish they would have kept the sprint and got rid of the run, or made it shorter. It's not practical anymore. But like I said, physically wise, it wasn't too bad. There's a lot more mental stuff in the academy that I don't think is talked about, but I think that's because it's the academy, and like new guys don't know until they get there. But I wouldn't say it's not like the military, like they're not trying to break you down and then build you back up.
You kind of thing.
Yeah, they don't do that, but they're just like, it's pretty quick. They show you and tell you the things you're going to see and deal with, and they actually even have it's towards the end, close to graduation, but they have a whole, they have to ask my wife. I know it's a day, it might be 2 days, where your family can come in and they talk to other family, or like lieutenants' families, people they're coming to the end of their career, but it's like their wives and their kids and stuff like that, so the families can kind of see what it's like for them. Like, we weren't even allowed it. I'd say it was just family. So it was just family, like other police families talking to our families, and kind of, like, my wife told me a little bit, it wasn't, because people, I say that and people think it's like nowadays like healthy and this and that, and they're indoctrinating you. It's more so like because we have to deal with shitty calls. So they take them in there and they tell them, like, your husbands, your wives, your boyfriends, whatever, they're gonna be different but the same. And it's just because I was even talking to my grandpa about this the other day. He was asking a question. But like, I can go from probably the worst thing that you will have ever seen in your life. I can go from a bloodbath in a house, a homicide thing, and the very next thing I do is have to go talk to old Debbie because she's mad that her neighbor's dog is barking. Like, so there's just this like, you don't know, it's a Russian roulette of what calls you're gonna get, and then we still have to go handle every call the same, and then it wears on you a little bit, but the thing is, and what a lot of the newer guys struggle with, and it's why we have an 80-something% divorce rate in our field, is because when they come home, that's when they try to let all that out, and it doesn't. It's not good, not healthy. So, like I said, my wife has been a rock for me. So and I don't tell her. I think I've told you I don't tell her a lot of stuff that I've dealt with and seen. So I kind of protect her a little bit from that. But yeah, I'm just glad that they're starting to do that more and get the families more involved so they know. But like I said, the academy for me was more of a mental preparedness. It wasn't physical wasn't too bad, which I wish it was. I gained a lot of weight after the academy, so I wish they would have focused more. Which is why I like our in-house academy here at Salt Lake. They make it a thing to where they keep these guys training constantly.
So what do you think the like how would you compare life as a cop patrolling the streets to working in a school?
It's radically different, but it's the same. Because like I said, my biggest asset I had still, I hope, is my ability just to talk to people. So as long as I can do that, doesn't matter if I'm taking calls, doesn't matter if I'm looking for somebody on the street, whatever it is, as long as I can talk to people, I can work. The schools are the same. I would actually say being able to talk to the kids is more valuable in a school than being able to talk to people on the street. Because on the street, we kind of have, and I hate to say it because we got some new guys who misuse it, but we have a little bit more authority on the street. In schools, like I told you, we're shackled a bit by
policies,
what we can do.
Policies and procedures of the schools.
But that makes being able to talk to them even more valuable. So like I said, it's the same in that aspect, but it is different because we're trained, and then I don't know, maybe it's just training or PTSD, whatever you call it, but like we're trained on the street that everybody I talk to has a gun, has a knife, whatever. And I'm not necessarily thinking they're trying to kill me, but I have a plan in my head in case it goes that way. And in the schools, definitely not. And maybe that's a detriment to me, maybe that's unsafe for me, but I don't think that every kid has a weapon, every kid has a gun. Sometimes I think they do. but that's just given, our history at our school, which I love working at. But, it's different, I guess, in that sense. I'm not as, they're going to play me alive. I can't remember the term. It's hyper alert, hyper aware. I can't remember the term that we use, but I don't have that as much. When I'm outside and walking around the school and stuff like that, I'm a little more aware, more alert, especially where we're at. There's a lot of our transients around the area, so you never know what they're gonna do. But in the school, I'm not as vigilant or whatever. I don't know what the word is.
Not as aware of your surroundings.
Like I am, because like I said, I don't necessarily. Well, I guess there's been a couple times where people walk in my office and I know they were there, but I'm just not as focused on the little details as when you're on the street, like I said, because you have to be, especially in a place like Salt Lake. Like we've had, and people explain to me because I tell stories from working, and sometimes people are like, "Oh, you're making that up," or "Oh, that wouldn't happen." It happened. You know what I mean? We have body camera, all kinds of stuff. But there's been times where we're working on something on the street, actually on the street, and stuff. People throw stuff at us from apartments up, 2 or 3 stories high. So, you're always looking. But in the schools, not so much. If I'm talking to a kid, I can talk to the kid. I don't necessarily have to worry about other kids walking by. Which again might not be safe, but that's how I do it.
So how were the shifts as a rookie cop, so to speak?
Yeah.
Were you designated to a specific shift, or were you just bouncing around wherever they need you?
Yes and no to both. When you first start, you're gonna go all over the place. So, when you finish. When you finish the academy, that's when you go on what they call field training. So that's, you're still learning, you're still training, but you're working. So it's on the job training for anything else. Mm-hmm. But when you're on FTO, you are purposely rotated so you can see different things and do it, because as much as people, I guess, want to say that it's not, even Salt Lake is radically different at night than it is during the day. Also, if you're on the west side versus the east side or downtown, so they try to rotate newer guys so they can kind of get a feel for everything that we deal with. And it's the same in small towns too, like where I started. Well, and that was our shift anyway, but where I started, we rotated every 2 or 3 months. We were on Graves, and I hated it, but went from Graves days, swings, and just kept rotating. So up here, because we have so many officers, they kind of just do a seniority bid, so most of you guys get stuff on Graves, which never bothered me. I like working Graves, just because I think you get more, I hate to say real, but you get more, I guess, what people think are police calls at night. You still get your barking dogs and your noise complaints, but most of the bigger stuff tends to happen at night.
Like they say, the freaks come out at night, right?
Yes.
That's where all the crazy stuff happens.
100%. And that's kind of like I said, working in Moab, where it was a tourist town. During the day, everybody's out hiking and having fun and whatever. At night, they get back to the hotel, they get back to the campground, start drinking, and they lose their minds.
That's where all the crazy stuff happens.
So yeah, like that. So I liked it, especially when I started. A lot of new guys, when they come out, they're all super gung ho and they want to do police stuff. So that's where they end up anyway. But it's also sketchy, because if you put new guys, if you got a squad of new guys, you got 6 new guys who don't know their ass from their elbow essentially, and you have those are the ones out there dealing with the serious crime, serious offenders, serious cases. Naturally, they're gonna screw some stuff up. So it's baptism by fire, but sometimes I don't think this necessarily might be the profession to do that. I've talked at length about this, because I've thought about promoting, and because I'm still just an officer, well, technically I'm still just an officer, but I've thought about promoting to sergeant, because I want to help younger guys, and make sure they're kind of looked after. Because yeah, like I said, I think just the other night, I was talking to one of my buddies who's still working patrol. He was on a shift. He's been here in Salt Lake, and that's total. He's never been a cop anywhere else for 3 years. He got to Salt Lake right before he started in Salt Lake, a little bit before I got there. He was the most senior guy, other than the sergeant, in the whole city that night. So you got, I think the whole city's covered, usually like 20-ish cops. Out of 20 cops, he only been there 3 years. He had the most time. And I'm like, well, no wonder, things are happening and whatever. Because like I said, it's not that new guys are stupid, but doing any job, you build.
You get that experience as you go.
And it's hard to explain, but everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? Because like if you do construction for 30 years, at 30 years, these little tricks or these little, like if you see something, you know what's going to happen, right? Or you can infer what's going to happen. It's the same thing in this job. Like if we see certain things or certain actions that people are doing, I can usually figure out if they're going to run, if they're going to give up, I guess, for lack of better words, fight us, whatever the case may be. You can kind of see that before, if you know what to look for. And these new guys, even though we try to teach them and try to show them that stuff in the academy, until you do it a lot in real life, it's just, you don't see it. It doesn't get ingrained. So it's hard. But yeah, like I said, I think for the most part you get stuck on Graves or swings. And personally, I hate swings. Super busy, and before you get the good calls, because swings go till midnight or 1 a.m. something like that. Before you start getting the better calls at night, you're dealing with still my neighbor's dog, or the fence is this, and stupid stuff that I don't necessarily think should be police calls. But I get where they are, even though I don't like them. So you still have to deal with all that before you get the real calls. So it's kind of awful, because a lot of the BS calls that we get about like neighbors and dogs, and we get a lot of fraud calls, like scam. They got somebody said they wanted my credit card, or they wanted me to get a gift card, and that kind of stuff. But those things, what people don't realize is that's a lot of I don't know why, but that's a lot of paperwork for us. So by the time I get to the calls that are more serious, I'm 3 reports deep that I'm trying to catch up on so I can get to those calls. So it's a weird thing, but yeah, sorry, we're tangent. But yeah, to answer your question, you are rotated around a lot until you get like done with most of your training, and then you're stuck usually on grades or whatever. And that's how you build seniority, and then you can start bidding for better ships you want. Most of them also, the thing we bid mostly in Salt Lake is for what we call days off, or regular days off, RDO. So I'm not necessarily bidding the work shift. Like I don't care if I work days, swings, or graves, because I like them all really. I just want those days off. Like if I want a weekend off, I'll take whatever shift I have to get the weekend off.
Okay.
So, but like I said, in other places it didn't, like in Moab we had a rotating thing, so they had like every other weekend off or something. It was, I can't remember, but it was, so it didn't, in small departments it doesn't matter as much, but in bigger departments, so yeah, in smaller departments you're stuck kind of on your schedule, but in bigger departments sometimes you have a little bit more room once you get, like I said, I've only been here 2.5, 3 years, and I can pretty much pick whatever shift I want, so yeah, it's not too bad.
So, what do you say you gained as far as knowledge from working at the school that you probably didn't gain from being out in the streets patrolling?
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah. I would say, especially in like in a bigger city like Salt Lake, I learned that kids are more involved in what we will call, for lack of a better word, adult business than I ever thought they were. Like, I think there's a couple kids, I can't remember if I told you, that I had to talk to, and I was like, why are you trying to be an adult at whatever it was, 16 or whatever? You got your whole life to do adult shit. Just be a kid, you know? And I mean, like I said, that's obviously it was covering all kinds of shit, gang stuff, crime, taking care of other kids, you know, relationship BS, like whatever. So that, as I said, small town, that maybe small towns are just insulated, I don't know. But the kids in small towns, and like even my kids, are kids. Like they just, you know, and it, like I said, I think it's good and bad, because when I turned 18 and started going to college, that's when I had a wake-up call that, you know, shit, mom's not going to be there every time something happens, or you know, if I run out of money, I got to find a job, or, you know, like it was that big, kind of brutal shock. Whereas, you know, the kids so far I've seen in the bigger cities, they've already been doing that for most of their high school careers. So, you know, I can see why some of it's good, and I don't. I wish kids would be kids for longer. So that was something I learned here, is that, you know, so they deal with more adult problems younger in a bigger city. But I also learned, and this is again what I wish I could teach newer guys, because this works for both in the schools and on the street. Listening is more important than talking, which is funny since I've been doing nothing but talking here. But just listening to kids, or listening to, you know, people, just listening gets you more information, lets you build that rapport, build that connection with people faster, or not faster, but I guess deeper. You know, builds the connection. Because if you're just talking constantly, or you ask them a question, let them say 2 or 3 words, and then, you know, ask another one, or change yourself, whatever, you're not really letting that connection develop, and you're kind of, I'm in control. So the listening is more important. But I think having, another thing is, because we have some SROs who are newer still to the job, who for whatever reason decide they want to kind of get out of patrol, so they end up picking, because a lot of spots that we have open are SRO spots, because unfortunately not a whole lot of people want to do it. Like I said, I love it, so when I heard it was open, I applied for it anyway, but a lot of people don't, and it sucks, because like I said, it's an awesome gig. Like, what was it, just towards the end of the school year, I was getting paid to play basketball with kids. Like, there's no other job I can think of besides professional basketball player, where I went to work today, stretched out, played basketball for 3 or 4 hours, and then went to the gym, or, whatever. Like, no other job I know of can say that. And I'm still a cop. So, still doing what I would like to do, what I want to do, but it's a whole different lens of looking at it. So our new guys, because they don't have the experience on the street as much, like that's the fastest way to build that connection with kids is to, when they say something or they ask something, you can pull out a story like, oh, well, I chased down that murder suspect and we had to tackle him and he shot at us or whatever, things like, that new guys probably haven't dealt with, so they don't have that, because I'm sure you've seen it, kids will, if they can, I wouldn't say it's the sixth sense, but kids can pretty much tell if you're full of shit.
Mm-hmm.
So you come out and try to bluff through, I'm a big badass, and they can see that you're not.
I think that's why they don't get on my nerves. Look at them, I was like, hey, listen, I want you to fix. Like, all right.
Like I said, because it's a I wouldn't know if it's sixth sense or whatever, but like kids can tell. Like I think as we grow up, I think sometimes we lose that ability. Because I think we all had it, but it just goes away. But yeah, and then like I said, so I think the experience you get from the streets is probably super useful, or has been useful for me, in the school setting. And it also helps too, because like I'm doing some of because I was a detective at the previous department I worked at too. So I've handled sex crimes, narcs, and all kinds of stuff. So being able to have that experience again and then come in and kind of use that to help with some of the cases we deal with at school has been helpful as well. So like I said, I think just the experience from the road has helped almost everything I do at school. But I guess the softer skills you need at the school would benefit guys on the road. It's just hard to it's hard to get them that, because a lot of, especially young guys, like I said, they just want to kick doors and chase people and do all that, fun shit. Mm-hmm. Now that I'm a little older, I'm like, yeah, go ahead. I'll be hanging out with the kids, so it's hard, but yeah, like I said, there's things you learn from both. And like I said, I will stay in this job as long as I can, because I think it's, for me, where I need to be right now.
And I feel like being able to connect with the youth in the position you're in is good, because it can also impact the community.
Yeah.
Like you try connecting or interacting with, say, this teenager 10, 15 years from now, and they're already public kids, and you're like, oh man, I feel like I could have gotten through to you if you were a bit more understanding and younger. Teens are just their kids, so they're infected. They have sponge minds. A lot of them still can get easily influenced, whether it's a good or a bad influence. They can still get easily influenced. So I feel like being able to talk to them and let them know how things are in the real world can kind of open a lot of their eyes to basically what's to come and what's to expect. Yeah?
No, yeah, there was 2 kids specifically that I was talking to this year. They were on the edge of getting in trouble, but they didn't. So my conversations were more conversations, not necessarily, hey, whatever. I think that interaction was probably the best interaction I've had, or the most impactful interaction I've had this year. Because those kids are always in my office now, just talking, and they'll talk about all kinds of stuff, like, and this is where I said earlier, like, I don't want to be a counselor, but
it's almost like it's a part of your job when you're in the school. Like even being in the field of security, like trying to get the kids to class and you're interacting with a lot of the kids along their way to class, and then during lunches or like recess and free periods, to see them in the halls and you're talking to them, and you get to know a little bit about these kids and hear some of their backstories, and it's just like it's one of those things to where it's like it's unintentional, but you're glad that it happened.
Yeah.
Because this is probably one of those kids who fail in class and causing trouble in school, and you're talking to them, and then they're actually
in a non-disciplinary way.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and you're listening. And alrighty, he's taking the time out of his day to interact with me and talk with me and tell me stuff I need to know. It's cool because you have your few who will listen, and obviously you have your few who won't.
Yeah.
Like, I've had a few kids who've actually listened to stuff I say about being an adult compared to being a high schooler. It's just like you have it easy now, but it's not as easy as this once you march across that stage and you get the diploma, and then you wake up and next day you're like, I'm not in high school anymore. Like my life is starting right now, and it's pretty cool because I've had some kids who were not doing good in their classes. They're like, oh look, I got my grades up. I was like, all right, bet. See how easy that was? You did good work, and it feels good because they're changing that mentality that they have.
Yep.
And just recently going to the graduation at FU and seeing some of the same kids march across the stage, and then interacting with them before the graduation and after the graduation, it was a good feeling because it's just like I was there with you, ushering you to class, telling you to get the halls, telling you to make sure you get your grades up, stay in your books, and it's just like, now look at you, marching across the stage. Like, I almost feel like a proud parent.
Yeah. No, I think that's the other reason I like the job. Like, none of us really necessarily will say that we like praise all or whatever, but like, yeah, like I love that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling like you contributed something to that kid. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But I'm gonna feel that way anyway.
Exactly.
Like, because there was like, his name was kid anyway, but his name. There was a kid this year that I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks left. Because he was having issues and stuff too. I had told him, I was like, man, you get a, I don't even think it was that. I was like, you get a B plus, whatever it was. I'll go buy you lunch. And he's like, no. And I'm like, oh, for real, man. Show me you have a B plus. Then that's gonna be your grade. Like, I don't want to just don't get a B plus and then fail again. But
right.
Like, if that's gonna be your grade,
Your final
I'll take you to
grade.
lunch. And he's like, for real? I'm like, yeah. And so I've been taking him to like lunch, because I didn't have time. But we walked over to Lee's and got him lunch. I was like, hey. So like, I think that's the other thing I learned with kids too, is that you can't, you have to keep your promises, for lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
So like, if you tell a kid something and don't follow through with it, that especially with kids, that bridge is burned.
Exactly.
Like adults, I think, just by the nature of society, or whatever you want to call it, we don't, even if we do that, you still have to interact with that person. Usually it's like work or whatever. So there's always going to be some kind of connection where you have to interact with them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, with kids, and this is, like, my wife's been a teacher for a long time as well. And that's something she learned because she's, taught all the way up through, like, she mostly younger kids, but I think 4th or 5th grade was the highest grade she taught. But same thing, like, if you tell kids something and don't follow through, I think because they don't have that, what do you call it, like the time, like, because they don't know, like, death is a hard concept for kids to understand as well. So the same thing, if you break a promise, they'll cut you off or done.
Right.
Because
that bridge is burned.
Yeah. So that's definitely something I had to.
It's like, I'm never talking to her again. Like, over in Arizona.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So like it's definitely, because that's the thing. If you even something as small as a drink, if you don't get them a drink or whatever the thing was, they now will call you. That is how they remember you. Is that you told me you do this and you didn't. So yeah. So that's, I don't know. I think that the role itself is awesome because there's been several kids that have, gotten in trouble outside of school. That guys will reach out to me for, hey, do you know this kid or whatever, things like that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, what do you do or whatever, And then I'll talk to them either at school or the parents or whoever and try to not like smooth anything over because there's consequences. But like being that, and that's what a resource officer is. It's supposed to be a resource between law enforcement and families, or law enforcement and school. We're that connection.
That bridges the
gap. Yep. So that's cool to see and do that. Sometimes it sucks when kids do stupid shit, but yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. I like the job.
All right, if you can say one thing to all the new recruits coming in right now, what would it be?
For law enforcement?
Yeah.
So maybe controversial, but I'll say it here. This is my opinion, not the express opinion of Salt Lake Police Department. This is my opinion. If you're the type of person that wants to be a cop because you want to put bad people in their place, or I want to be in charge, things like that, I don't want you. Don't be a cop. Don't do it. Because you are not the kind of person who's going to be good in this job. So that's my piece. We'll get that out of the way. But on the positive side, what I'll say is this job is police in general, not SRO. This job is amazing and awful at the same time. But there are far more positives than negatives so far, at least in my 12 years that I've had. I've had way more positives. So it's a long road, because I think especially now it's still they jacked up our retirement. So we have to do, I think standard state retirement is like 20 years, but for us it's 25. So we have to do 25 before we get retirement. So it's a little bit longer road, but it's worth it. Just again, if you're not one of those people I mentioned a second ago, but if you want to, like for me, I just wanted to make a difference in my community. So if you want to do that, or if you want to learn, like I said, this job has offered me the opportunity to learn things that I don't think ever would have learned anywhere else. So if you want to see things and do things and talk to people, and that's the biggest thing. And I hesitate to say helping people, and not because I don't want to help people, but because if that's all you want to do is help people, this job will also humble you. Because there's a guy I arrested here when I was on swing shift. I arrested him. So we do usually 4-day weeks. I arrested him every day, 4 times a week, for trying to break into the same restaurant. And so, it's kind of sad. He's homeless, or whatever the technical term is now.
Transient.
I'm experiencing, whatever. Yeah. So he has nowhere to go, no job, no money, and he hangs out. At least at that time he was hanging out like in the Sugar House area. So there's a lot of restaurants and stuff there. So he would try to go and get food. So you feel for him. He can't. It's illegal. Can't do it. So I had to arrest him every day. So that's the thing. Like the system, I think, and that's another thing I've learned so far in my career, is that contrary to popular belief, it's not usually the cops who are dropping the ball with this kind of stuff. It's just the system, the way it's set up now, the justice system, the way it's set up now. Because like I said, I arrested that guy at 6 o'clock on whatever, we'll call it Monday, for lack of a better, I can't remember what day I was working, but on my Monday, I arrested him for trespass, theft, and whatever the hell it was. I got the same call, I think it was 7 o'clock the next day, and then 6 o'clock the next day, and 6 o'clock the next. It was the same time every day, because he would go, and they'd get the processing and stuff done that morning, so they'd release him, and so it would just continue, like just a cycle. And that's something I've seen with there was another guy who, he bit one of my buddies Like we went there as a medical because he was passed out on the ground with vomit next to him. We thought he was dying or something, you know. We get there to try to help him. He sees us in uniform, you know, automatically assumes the worst, starts attacking us. Which I'm sure you've probably seen it in your security stuff, but fighting people covered in vomit is super fun. So it was already an issue. So dealing with that, and then he tried to bite my buddy, kicked me, tried to almost kick one of our other guys in the face. So, you know, some fairly serious stuff out of nothing. Like he could have just, once he woke up, he could have just left and it would have been fine. But he decided to fight us as soon as he woke up. So, you know, it's whatever. But same thing. We dealt with that at like 9 or 10 o'clock one night. The next night at the same time, in the same place, we dealt with him again. So it's like I said, it's just humbling and disappointing that that's how the system is. But I get it. Like we should be housing our more serious stuff, things like that, and you know, kind of lesser criminal things shouldn't be a priority. Because, and mostly for me, I'm talking about like the drug stuff. Like I don't like. Well, I also, contrary to popular belief, we don't arrest people who have weed, unless it's a lot of weed. So like we're not gonna get, you know, I don't know, old Joe down on the corner who's got a, you know, bag of weed. Like couldn't care less. I'll give him a ticket maybe. You know what I mean? Like that's because like that's the thing you hear is that, you know, somebody's in jail for, you know, in prison for 3 years because he had pot, but this guy's a sex offender and he's out, and it's like, well, you know, yes and no. That doesn't happen, first of all. Mm-hmm. If he's in jail for weed or any drug, it's because he's probably selling a shitload of it, because that's the only cases they'll take. Like we had a guy who was dealing meth out on North Temple, dealing meth, and he was out in a month. So like, it's the bigger stuff. It's the guys who are dealing like quote unquote drug rings. Those are the ones who go to prison. So it's not the, you know, guy with a bag of weed. At least in Utah. Again, I can't speak for other states. I don't know how they work.
Yeah.
But yeah, like for some of the stuff, because we had a guy, you know, same thing. A guy beat up or punched a nurse at one of the hospitals. He was out the next day. Like there's some people who shouldn't be. The system shouldn't allow, I guess, no consequences or minimal consequences. Because those guys too, they're not gonna. A lot of them, they're not going to get out and then worry about their court day and paying their fine and things like that. They don't care. They don't do it. So then it turns into a warrant. Then we got to go pick them up and they fight us again. It's this whole thing, you know. But again, now that I'm older now, weird being the old guy. But anyway, now that I'm older, I definitely try not to fight anymore. I'm too old. Everything hurts. I don't want a lot of paperwork. Like, if I can just talk you into the back of my car, I will. So. But yeah, it's there's a lot of good things in this job, but there's bad things too. So if you get into the job, stick with it. Keep your integrity. Don't let anybody compromise you. Because unfortunately, that's what we see a lot of. Is that, you know, guys getting with inmates, or guys getting with arrestees, or doing just stupid shit. So keep your integrity. If you have issues with integrity, again, don't apply. Saving us in law enforcement and you a lot of heartache. Because I'm sure people have seen there's guys getting arrested, cops getting arrested for all kinds of horrible shit. And that's again because I think our background process failed. And most of those people, I don't like giving absolutes. I won't say all of those people, but from my experience and what I've seen, most of those people should never have been hired in the system. So, yeah, like I said, in the long run, it's a good job, it's a good gig. I love it. I've been doing this for over 12 years now. And I don't know what else I would do, because it's the coolest job. It sucks sometimes, it's awesome other times. And the other thing, the last word I'll give them is, don't worry about what other people say about you if you get into it. Because you're going to have people saying stuff about cops all the time. All you can control is what you do every day you go to work.
Well, very good spoken words from Larry. This is where we're going to wrap up the interview, and thanks for your time, man.
Thanks
Much
for having me.
appreciated.
Thanks for